Before the game even started, Shedeur Sanders told reporters he was built for this. Not out of arrogance, but certainty. And when the clock hit 0, that swagger had turned into a statement win against a franchise that had 7 separate chances to pick him. The Raiders didn't just get beat. They got picked apart by a rookie they passed on over and over. For a team still stuck in a quarterback spiral, it was a brutal look. Sanders didn't just prove he belonged. He made it painfully clear how much the Raiders underestimated his leadership and talent.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
Cleveland, so often the league's punchline, might finally have something real to believe in. Sanders' presence flipped the energy in the building, inspired his teammates, and gave the fans something more than false hope. His immediate impact makes it hard not to wonder what the Raiders saw, or failed to see. Because if one star can shift a narrative, then Sanders just rewrote the beginning of 2 franchises heading in opposite directions. There's a special kind of silence that falls over an NFL front office when the guy you pass on 7 times hands your team a loss. And not just any loss, a decisive, controlled, momentum-shifting, he's-him kind of debut that makes fans across the league ask, how did you let that guy slip through? That's the exact question swirling around the Raiders after Shedeur Sanders' historic first NFL start. 7 chances, 1 quarterback, and a result that's already shaping up to haunt this organization for years. Let's set the scene. Sanders wasn't a top pick. He wasn't even a day 2 guy. He was drafted in the 5th round. He entered the league with doubters circling. Questions about his pedigree, his experience, his ability to translate his college dominance into pro-level execution. The Raiders had more than enough opportunity to take a flyer on him, and they didn't. Instead, it was the Cleveland Browns, a team long synonymous with quarterback misery, who said, "We'll take that chance." And in one afternoon, that decision paid off in ways the franchise hadn't experienced in nearly 3 decades. For the first time since 1995, a Browns rookie quarterback won his first game. And he didn't just win it. He elevated the team, energized the fan base, and embarrassed the very organization that thought he wasn't worth the pick. Let's be clear. This wasn't some chaotic, lucky, defense-heavy win where the quarterback just managed to not screw up. This was command. This was presence. This was the kind of performance that changes the temperature in the room. Sanders didn't play like a rookie, getting his feet wet. He played like a professional who had been waiting for this moment and was fully prepared to seize it. You could see it in his demeanor. From the first snap, he looked calm, focused. He made sharp reads, placed throws with precision, and handled pressure like someone who had already seen it all. He had full control of the offense. There was no panic, no overcorrection, no wide-eyed hesitation. Just rhythm, composure, execution. And the Raiders were on the receiving end of every bit of it. Shedeur Sanders didn't just show out. He showed the Raiders exactly what they're missing. This team has been searching for a franchise quarterback for years. They've tried veterans, short-term band-aids, and unproven experiments. But the core issue remains. They don't have a guy who can lead. Not just someone who can throw a ball, but someone who sets a tone, commands a locker room, inspires belief. Sanders did that for Cleveland in 1 game. And the fact that it happened against a team that passed on him 7 times? That's not just unfortunate. That's organizational malpractice. And it was visible. The Raiders' defense looked overwhelmed. The offense had no answer. The sideline had no spark. While Sanders was out there throwing perfect strikes, like the one to Isaiah Bond, the Raiders were left chasing shadows. Every throw, every successful drive, every moment of composure was a reminder of the draft decisions that had just played out on live television. What makes it worse is that Cleveland wasn't exactly seen as a quarterback's dream destination. It's been a carousel of failed starters, broken systems, and short-lived optimism. But Sanders' debut flipped that script immediately. The energy was different. The team looked inspired. The crowd responded to every throw like they finally had something real to believe in. That kind of shift doesn't happen because a rookie has a lucky day. It happens when a leader shows up. And that's what Sanders brought: leadership. The confidence wasn't just performance. It was authentic. His pregame interviews weren't arrogance. They were clarity. He knew what he was about. He knew what he was stepping into. And he knew he could handle it. Now contrast that with the Raiders. Quarterback questions still looming. Defense falling apart. No clear direction. No leadership under center. And now, public humiliation in the form of a rookie quarterback they could have had. It's one thing to lose. It's another to be dismantled by the very player you chose not to believe in. This isn't just a bad look. It's a warning shot. Because the NFL is a league that remembers. Every success Sanders has from here on out will be a reminder of what the Raiders let walk. Every touchdown, every game-winning drive, every moment where he makes it clear he's a franchise guy, that's going to sting. Because what Sanders showed in his debut wasn't just technical skill. It was maturity. It was the ability to thrive in pressure. He made smart decisions, avoided costly mistakes, and kept his team on schedule. And all of that came in his first game. That doesn't happen often. And when it does, it usually signals something much bigger on the horizon. Meanwhile, the Raiders are stuck facing the consequences of playing it safe. Draft decisions have ripple effects. And this one is already crashing into Vegas like a tidal wave. Their defense just got lit up by the quarterback they ignored. And now they're staring at a long season full of uncomfortable comparisons. Because this won't be a one-time narrative. It'll resurface week after week. Every time the Browns win, every time Sanders shows out, the question will come back. How did the Raiders miss this? 7 times. The answer isn't pretty. It speaks to everything wrong with the way some franchises approach the draft. Overthinking, ignoring intangibles, valuing measurables over leadership, playing it safe instead of trusting instincts. And here's the thing. This wasn't a secret. Sanders had the production in college. He had the resume. He had the interviews, the composure, the drive. None of this came out of nowhere. The signs were there. The Raiders just didn't act on them. So now they're left with regret. And it's loud. It's loud on social media. It's loud on sports talk radio. It's loud in every corner of NFL analysis. And it's only going to get louder. Meanwhile, the Browns, who have spent years looking for this moment, are finally celebrating the arrival of a quarterback who looks like he could actually change things. It's not hype. It's not a maybe. It's real, and it's built on performance. Even if there are growing pains ahead, and there will be, Sanders has already established one thing very clearly. He belongs. And not just in a backup role or developmental window. He belongs now. He's ready now. The Browns saw it. The Raiders didn't. That's the story. And it's one that could follow both franchises for years. Let us know your thoughts. Was this the worst mistake of the Raiders draft? Is Shedeur Sanders already the biggest steal of the year? Drop your take below. Hit like if you watched that game and immediately thought, Vegas fumbled this bad. Share this with a friend in your fantasy league who thought Sanders wouldn't even start this year. And don't forget to subscribe. We'll be here all season covering every wild moment, every bad decision, and every rising star who proves the doubters wrong. And we're still not done unpacking just how bad this looks for the Raiders. Because this wasn't just a bad day at the office. It was a full-on franchise mirror moment. The kind where you can't hide behind injuries, rebuilding years, or process talk. There's no PR spin that softens a blow of 7 draft picks being used on literally anyone, but the quarterback who just dissected your defense and outshone your entire offense in one game. And let's be honest, the NFL doesn't forget these moments. This is the kind of thing that follows an organization. When analysts talk about why the Raiders can't get out of their own way, this tape is going to be Exhibit A. The rookie quarterback they passed on showed poise, precision, and pocket awareness, the likes of which their own quarterbacks haven't consistently shown in years. The Raiders didn't just miss. They missed loud, and they missed publicly. You think fans don't notice this stuff? This is what they do notice. While Cleveland fans are buying Shedeur Sanders jerseys and lining up to talk about the start of a new era, Raiders fans are stuck Googling draft boards and wondering how their front office could look past this level of talent that many times. You can feel the frustration bubbling up already. It's not just disappointment. It's betrayal. Because this wasn't just about numbers. Sanders didn't throw for 5 touchdowns or break rookie records. What he did was more important. He showed he can lead. He played with confidence, made the right decisions, and looked like a field general. That's the difference between a guy who puts up empty stats and a quarterback who can redefine a team's trajectory. And the Browns, of all franchises, might have finally found that guy. Let that sink in. A team that has cycled to more quarterbacks than most fans can name in a single breath just landed the most impactful rookie debut Cleveland's seen since before half the league was even born. And the guy who made it happen? He was sitting there on the board again and again and again. Meanwhile, what did the Raiders come away with from this draft? Some depth, a few potential pieces, and a growing sense that this team still has no long-term solution at the one position that every successful team has locked down. No amount of spin changes the fact that they ignored a franchise-altering quarterback right before he delivered a moment that could change the identity of the team that did believe in him. And when you look back at the film, the thing that really stands out isn't just Sanders' composure. It's the way everyone else responded to him. You saw receivers running sharper routes. You saw linemen holding blocks a half-second longer. You saw coaches calling the game with trust in their QB. That's not just talent, that's influence. And that's what great quarterbacks do. They don't just perform, they elevate. Tell us the last time the Raiders had someone like that under center. This is why this loss cuts deeper than most. It wasn't just about who won or lost. It was about what could have been, what should have been, and now, what probably won't be for a very long time if Vegas keeps making these same mistakes. You don't get many chances in this league, especially not at quarterback. And when you pass up a player like Shedeur Sanders 7 times, and he turns around and gives your team a football lesson, you don't get to hide from that. You own it. Or more accurately, it owns you until you prove you can recover. And even that feels like a long shot right now. Because here's what we know. Quarterbacks like Sanders don't come around often. Not ones with that mix of leadership, confidence, and ability to perform under pressure. Not ones who walk into the NFL and change the mood of an entire franchise overnight. Not ones who make everyone around them better on day one. And if this is just the beginning for Shedeur Sanders, then the Browns aren't just lucky, they're finally smart. This isn't the typical flash-in-the-pan story. This looks like a foundation, a culture shift, a moment the franchise and its fans can rally around. Because let's be honest, they've suffered. Through constant quarterback changes, through embarrassing losses, through year after year of thinking maybe this time it's different. And now, it actually is different. All because they took a chance on a player the Raiders decided wasn't worth it. Not once, not twice, 7 times. That level of failure in talent evaluation can't be overstated. It's not just a draft day oversight. It's a franchise-altering miscalculation, the kind that leads to front office changes, the kind that triggers major fan backlash, the kind that keeps a team stuck in the basement of its division while everyone else builds. And what's worse is the Raiders needed this, more than most. This wasn't a team with a solidified QB room or a long-term plan. They were in desperate need of direction at the most important position in football, and the answer was right there. Until it wasn't. Now all they can do is watch. Watch as Sanders develops. Watch as Cleveland starts to believe. Watch as every media outlet highlights their role in one of the most head-turning Week 1 stories in recent memory. Because this is more than just a great debut. This is a franchise-level pivot. Cleveland fans now have a reason to believe their team might be able to win in the future because of their quarterback, not in spite of him. That's not something they've been able to say in decades. And it all comes back to a simple truth. Leadership matters. Confidence matters. Readiness matters. And Sanders brought all of that to Cleveland, and none of it to Las Vegas. Let's be very real for a second. This is one of those NFL moments that doesn't just go away. Shedeur Sanders walking into his first professional game and putting the league on notice wasn't just a good story. It was a defining, franchise-altering moment. And it came at the direct expense of the team that so publicly and repeatedly looked the other way. The Las Vegas Raiders didn't just pass on Sanders. They passed on what could have been their identity. They passed on leadership. They passed on culture. They passed on exactly what they don't have right now. And the result? A rookie quarterback not only outplays their defense, he exposes their entire organizational process in front of fans, media, former players, and executives who now have no choice but to ask the question out loud. What were they thinking? Because let's not lose sight of the key numbers. The Raiders had 7 picks before Shedeur Sanders was taken. 7 opportunities to shift direction, stop the quarterback shuffle, and finally plant their flag behind a potential franchise QB. And instead, they walked away empty-handed. Not just without Sanders, but without any quarterback capable of producing what he did against them. That's the sting. He didn't just shine. He did it to them. While they were still figuring things out on the sideline, Sanders had already taken the Browns down the field with rhythm and efficiency. It looked clean. It looked sharp. And more than anything, it looked like the opposite of what the Raiders had. It's hard to overstate how much this kind of performance matters for a team like Cleveland. This is a franchise that's been in quarterback hell since the 90s. They've tried everything: big trades, early picks, late-round flyers, stopgap veterans, and none of it stuck. But in just one game, Sanders gave them something no one else had: belief. And belief is everything. You can't fake it. You can't scheme around it. It either shows up or it doesn't. And from the second Sanders stepped onto the field, you could feel it. He played with a calm confidence that told everyone watching, this moment isn't too big for me. For a 5th-round rookie, that's not normal. And you could see it in his teammates, too. Receivers were sharper. The O-line blocked harder. The sideline was energized. The whole team fed off Sanders like he'd been their guy for years. That kind of chemistry doesn't happen by accident. It happens when you've got someone under center who commands respect by showing up and delivering. Which brings us right back to the Raiders. Because while Sanders was orchestrating his NFL arrival, the Raiders were unraveling. Defensively, they had no answer. Offensively, they had no leadership. And organizationally, they looked like a team trying to figure out how this happened. And make no mistake, they know exactly how this happened. They saw him in the draft. They did the interviews. They watched the tape. And when it was their turn, again and again and again, they passed. 7 times. And now, just 1 week into the season, they're already living with the consequences. Let's talk about that throw to Isaiah Bond for a second. Perfect placement. Flawless timing. That's the kind of throw veteran quarterbacks spend years learning how to make. And Sanders pulled it off in his debut. Under pressure. In a game with sky-high expectations. Against a very team that didn't want him. And he made it look easy. That throw will be replayed all season. It'll show up on highlight reels, in film study, on pre-game shows. But more than anything, it'll be replayed in Vegas. Over and over. And not because it was a great pass, but because it was a symbol. A reminder of what happens when you underestimate the intangibles. When you ignore leadership. When you let a quarterback like Shedeur Sanders slip through your fingers. This wasn't just a rookie breakout. This was a referendum on the Raiders' entire scouting process. And while Cleveland is celebrating, Vegas is in full damage control. Coaches are deflecting. Executives are justifying. Fans are furious. And rightfully so. Because here's the truth. Quarterback decisions define franchises. They make or break front offices. They launch dynasties or derail entire rebuilds. And when you miss, especially like this, there's nowhere to hide. Especially not when that quarterback starts turning into a star. Shedeur Sanders has the tools. He's got the arm, the presence, the calm under fire. But it's his mindset that sets him apart. That unshakable confidence. That leadership energy. The way he walks into a room or a stadium and takes control. That's what Cleveland saw. That's what the Raiders ignored. And that's the difference between a franchise stuck in place and one finally moving forward. Let's not act like this was some surprise either. The signs were all there. Sanders wasn't an unknown. He had the college stats, the football IQ, the professionalism. He'd been groomed for the spotlight. He was the spotlight in college. And the only reason he wasn't a top pick was because too many teams got caught up in outdated scouting logic and second-guessing their own instincts. Now, Every time Sanders delivers another big performance, those same teams will be reminded of what they gave up, and none more than the Raiders, because he didn't just play well. He didn't just look good for a rookie. He walked into the NFL and made one of the league's most desperate quarterback-needy teams look like amateurs for not picking him and for letting him be the one to prove them wrong on the field. And that's the kind of moment that leaves a mark. Whether you're a Browns fan riding the wave or a Raiders fan still trying to process the collapse, you know what this means. The story is already writing itself. And Sanders? He's not just part of the narrative. He is the narrative now. A fifth-round pick who might have just become the biggest steal of the draft on day one. And the fallout? It's only beginning. So what do you think? Did the Raiders make the worst decision of the draft by passing on Sanders? Or are we witnessing the rise of the NFL's next breakout quarterback? Let us know in the comments. If you were yelling at your screen during this game, hit that like button. Share this with a friend in your fantasy league who swore Shedeur wasn't ready. And make sure you subscribe, because something tells us we'll be talking about this story a lot this season.